Hour 2 Overdrive continues, powered by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line of the final score. Bryan Hayes, the O-Dog, Jeff O'Neill, Frankie Corrado. We've got Mike Johnson coming up here in a moment. Got some audio and video from LeBron James that's creating a bit of a stir we'll get to later this hour. Lakers winning again last night. Joel Embiid, it was just announced, shut down for the season. Joel Embiid is done, not playing again.
Would you be shocked if you never saw him again?
I can't say I'd be shocked.
No, me neither.
I can't say I'd be shocked. I mean, I presume he plays again. I hope for his sake he plays the Sixers, but I wouldn't be shocked. Or I wouldn't be shocked if 2 or 3 years from now it's just over. You know, like he'll come back. He'll have some surgery. He'll overcome this. I would guess he'll probably be ready to play next year, but that he's like one more injury away from. That's it. Because he barely got
this situation, though. Was it worth it to piss around all year and sit out, come back for a game, sit out 2 weeks, come back? Like, they just wasted a whole year.
More or less. And he made sure he got to the Olympic Games, right? Like, he was at the Olympics, and he got his gold medal. And that rubbed a lot of people the wrong way in Philly, man, that you made sure you were playing for that, but you couldn't be ready come the regular season, and he's just
it's all just what guys want to do. It's world championships. Nah, I don't think I can go. 4 Nations. I'll cut my arm off to play in that tournament.
Mm-hmm.
It just depends on what's the cool thing to do. World championships. There's some guys. This will be interesting to see the world championships this year. They will be lining up to play in that one, I'll tell you.
But, dude, guys used to go. Like, Crosby went. Guys like Spezza used to go. Like, I don't know.
They showed up periodically. It's like Sid was in the playoffs a lot of the time.
Yeah.
If the one time he was out, he would be like, I'm going to lead the charge here, and I'll show up and be Captain Canada, but...
Well, Dylan Larkin talked about it, man. He's like, he wanted to see more American players go play in that tournament because he's done it probably more than once now. And he's like, you know, the Canadian guys, a lot of those guys have done it. We should be going. It shouldn't be pulling teeth to get guys go play in that tournament.
Well, and it begs the question, how many spots are really available to be on the team next year, right, for both countries? Because if you're
a fringe, man.
That's the thing. And, you know, if you're a fringe player – or if you're realistic and you're like, I'm not even really on the fringe, what are the worlds going to do? You'd think you'd still want that experience because that means you're not a superstar player. You know, that means you could probably improve in terms of your own game and take some experiences out of it. But I think that would be an interesting practice to do at some point. Like, which team, Canada or the U.S., has more locks on it between now and the Olympics? Like, which team would you guess will have more turnover from the 4 Nations face-off to the Olympic Games?
Canada.
You think Canada will have more turnover?
I think Canada will have more turnover. I think the Americans are very entrenched in what they want to do, and the personnel that they have is more suited to it. Maybe Tage Thompson would make it. Like, Cole Caulfield would still not fit the bill as far as what they're looking for. I think the States is pretty much what you see is what you get. I think Canada could have a little more turnover.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that's probably the answer. And like in net, it's going to be Hellebuck, probably Ottinger. Was Swayman in the third goalie? I think it was.
Yeah, he was.
And, you know, likely Swayman. Although the third goalie turnover is largely irrelevant. They're not going to play, more than likely.
God, there's another guy, man. He got paid. He hasn't been that good this year.
It's been a weird year for some guys who have been paid and the spotlight's been on them. And, you know, the Swayman-Olmark scenario – it's interesting. Like Boston, when they were both in Boston, they were lights out. The best tandem in the league the last 2 years.
Like every time they took the net, they were unbeatable.
Unbelievable, the two of them, for 2 straight years. Unbeatable.
On their own?
Very different story. Neither team may make the playoffs.
Yeah.
Like as of right now, with Columbus winning again, like Columbus beat Detroit last night. They're 4 points clear of anyone else. Again, that's not a huge buffer. That's not a big gap with 25 games to go, especially with 2 teams that don't have playoff success behind them and something they can lean on. But all of a sudden, Boston and New York and you know Ottawa, they're 4 points back.
Do you know who is gaining traction that is putting everyone on notice lately? The T-Bay Lightning.
Mm-hmm.
The T-Bay Lightning, and here's a precautionary tale I'll make you aware of before we get to Mike Johnson. We talked about players in certain scenarios where life could be good and you've made a pile of money. Here's a great scenario right there. Steven Stamkos, I'm pretty sure at the last minute they had a couple different offers that he could choose from, whether he wanted to just last-ditch effort, come and stay in Tampa, finish your career. And I think he had a number in mind that he wanted to shove in his jeans, and Nashville was willing to go there. Think of that scenario.
Yeah.
Pretty sure he'd be pretty happy to be a Tampa Bay Lightning.
Yeah.
Obviously, he'd be happy to shove the $8 million or whatever he's making, but there's just a little cautionary tale for you folks.
That's a very good point. Yeah. You can get the money, you just may not get it where you want to. And like that Nashville offseason just keeps looking worse and worse and worse. It's like
them in Pittsburgh, they're the things where it's like you look at it and it smells like burning garbage, but you can't say anything. It's just like, wow, look at that thing over there. Mm-hmm. Wow. Interesting.
Penguins are a tough watch this year. Like they really are, and the goaltender's losing his mind after he gets pulled. The one note I want to make on Stamkos though, like when he had the offers from Toronto, the other contract, the previous one, like he kind of did that maneuver, right? He didn't want to take more money. He called Tampa. He said, "Let's work this thing out, and I'll come back." And that was an 8-year deal. And so I guess towards the end, he's like, well, I don't know. Am I going to do it again? Or do I just cash in one last time?
I get it. And we can't speak for Stamkos. Like, who knows how he's feeling. But it is kind of strange how – and you're always going to be linked to team success. You know, this is what we talked about with Sid the last couple of years. If that team's losing all the time, just no one's going to pay attention to Sid. It's unfortunate. It shouldn't be the case. It's wasted talent. But Stamkos is completely out of sight, out of mind in terms of the NHL conversation. Like, it's just not at any point is anyone focusing on him, talking about him, how's it going.
I don't remember the last time Kara or Lindsay said his name.
No, he never comes up. Nashville doesn't really, although they beat Winnipeg last night somehow. Shockingly they beat them. But it's weird, man. Marchessault, he was a part of the chat all the time. Guy won a Conn Smythe in Vegas. What's Marchessault doing? Guy scores 40. He's a beast, playoff performer. It's like they've retired in Nashville. It's kind of crazy what's happened, and it is a really good lesson that, it may be greener on the other side in terms of cash, but the grass may not be. Here's Mike Johnson, our TSN hockey analyst. That's a good line, man. You can use that next Friday. That's a good line. The cash may be greener, but not the grass. That's a great line. Go ahead, Johnny. You can have it too. Frankie, anyone can have it.
I'm just ruminating. See who can get it out first. 8:03. Initial thoughts on the day.
Yeah.
Cash, it might be greener, but the grass might not be.
Absolutely.
Words to live by.
It's a great line.
Yeah, Stammer's great. He's on pace to have the fewest points of any season in his career, including his rookie year where he was like playing for Barry Melrose and scratched and not scoring and everything else, and he's still on pace for less than that. It's tricky, and I'm not one to say don't worry about $10 million, $20 million, because that's a boatload of money that you could do a lot of good with for you and your family. But as far as your general enjoyment of your professional life, he's not having a lot of fun now. And the problem with Nashville is like they sort of went all in on older guys, thinking, okay, we're going to be good, we're going to press, we're going to try to be good the next 3-4 years. And then if it doesn't work, they're doubly in trouble because not only are they not good, but now they got old guys on long contracts that are not being good. So they're hard to unwind what they tried to go down last year. So it's always a cautionary tale this time of year, free agent day, whatever. And you make big changes for yourself or the team. Best laid plans do not always work out. Everyone's talking about go get the Shen brothers. Wouldn't that be cool? Of course it'd be cool. I don't know if that guarantees anything for the Toronto Maple Leafs.
No, and that would be a typical kind of trade deadline, old school Leaf move, right? Big splash, trade picks, maybe a prospect, bring in the Shen brothers. You can already picture them walking into the building together. It'd be incredible. Like, it'd be a great theater.
Dude, you're trying to win a playoff series. You're not looking at an Instagram post of two brothers walking into the rink. Like, yes, it's a fantasy idea, but it's like people are just get so whacked out on this stuff, man, on this market. I don't know. Like, it's a great story, but is that really the best game plan, Hayes?
Well, I'm not sure it is. I'm not saying it is.
Depends what it costs.
Yeah,
it's going to cost a ton. Like, so let's say Braden Shen is better than Scott Laughton, just using names out there, right? So maybe we could say that. He's probably a better player. But, like, incrementally better, given the acquisition cost and the future of the franchise and the difference in a series, is he really going to be worth 3 prospects versus a second rounder? You know, I don't know. This is the kind of equation you got to run in your mind. I get being all in. I get it. This year, more than maybe any in the last 7 for Toronto, they got to be all in. Totally makes sense. But you still got to be prudent. Still has to make, has to make sense what you're trying to get accomplished. And it'll be interesting. The whole thing will be interesting because, guys, doesn't it feel like this year, way quieter than the last few years? There's always tons of trades leading up to the last week, 10 days, 2 weeks before the trade deadline. This year, there's been a couple of big ones, but that's it. Not a lot of trickle stuff yet, and we're only 7 days away.
That's because all these donkey teams think they're winning the Stanley Cup that are on the outside looking in, Johnny.
Yeah, that's it. Boston, Islanders, admit who you are. You're not going to make, even if you make the playoffs, you're not winning the Stanley Cup. So, make decisions accordingly, but I think they're hanging right to the very, very end. But more important than the playoffs, honestly, for the Toronto Maple Leafs, it's crazy, is winning the division. It has never been more important, I don't think, than this year. I mean, if they could somehow win the division, avoid the Florida teams, I would like their chances against Detroit or Columbus or New York or Ottawa or Boston or whoever else comes in the bottom. If they play Florida or Tampa, it's a pick 'em at best, maybe less for the Toronto Maple Leafs, given the competition. So, that is really got to be their focus, which is why, the Tanev injury, even though it might be short-term, these teams are right on their heels, and it's going to be tight between both of them. It's not just Florida anymore. Oh, you mentioned it. Tampa, 7 in a row, longest winning streak in 5 years for the Bulls. They're scary when they get going. And Vasilevsky sort of has quietly responded to become one of the better goalies in the league once again. Mm-hmm. And you don't want any part of that matchup in the first round, even though the Leafs have had success against Tampa the last few years.
Johnny, what does that say about you, though, as a team, if you're avoiding? Do you think Florida says, man, I got to avoid Toronto in the first round? Are you just being smart, or are you being realistic that maybe that you're not that good? To say that, to say the phrase, avoid the Florida teams, where I think other teams is just we don't care who we play in the first round. Assess that for me, please.
I would think Florida would be lying to themselves and to you if they were to say, oh, yeah, we don't care who we play in the first round. We don't care if it's Tampa or Toronto or Detroit. They're lying. They want to play Detroit. So they might not say it out loud, and I haven't heard anyone in Toronto say, oh, we want to avoid the Florida teams. I'm being realistic because I can say it out loud. I don't have to have any false bravado. I know my chances, whether I'm Florida or Tampa or Toronto, if I win the division, my chances to win the first-round series are probably 68%, 70% likelihood I win that first-round series. If I come second or third, I don't care what team it is, though, Florida included, you're basically 50-50 toss-up in that first round. So, no, I don't think that's delusional for the Leafs or the Panthers or anyone. I think that's just the reality of the way the division is broken down this year.
Is this the most wide open you think the Eastern Conference has been for the Leafs to kind of carve out their path? I know Vasilevsky's playing great. The Panthers are what they are, but there's a lot of teams that still have warts, and you look at them and you're like, no one's really running away with it. Is this the year where you look at it and say, well, Toronto has to kind of make that splash because of what's going on around them?
Frankie, I feel like that might be a bit of the, Hayes is for the prisoner of the moment kind of thing. Toronto had first round game 7s at home in the last year against teams that were really good. And they didn't win them, but, teams that went deep in the playoffs. And so I don't know if, I get there's no 130-point team this year. I get that. But I don't know if it's any different. They are one of the 6 teams, one of the 5 teams in the East that you think could maybe go deep, just like they have been. And, the years where Boston had 130 points, they got bounced in the first round. So I don't know if that really feels it. It feels the same to me. It feels like another year. Their team is different, but the likelihood of success and the quality of competition is the same 4 or 5 cluster of teams that might be able to do it. They're one of them. Maybe the style difference makes it different this year, or maybe just this year makes it different because it's this year.
Well, and I think that gets to what O was saying about like even worrying about external issues, where it's internally, how about you have your best performance? Like, who cares what other teams are doing? You're going to run into tough teams, going to run into tough matchups, but it's on the Leafs to finally just embolden themselves, whether it's through their best players stepping up in big moments, defensively continuing to play sound. Special teams have always been unpredictable come playoff time for them, specifically their power play.
Mm-hmm.
Who's going to play in net? Like, there's different question marks here, but I think the Leafs have the ability, based on the way they're built on paper. I get their history, but based on the way they're built on paper and the way they've played this year, to be a bully, like to show up in the playoffs and puff your chest out. And it seems impossible to imagine and envision because they've never done it. But ultimately, that's their best chance, is not getting lucky with some route where they play this team or that team or this guy gets hurt or whatever. It's always the best team at the end looks at themselves and goes, we did it ourselves. Like, we didn't get lucky.
Sure.
We did it because we played better than everyone else.
And definitely. But you can walk and chew gum at the same time,
sure,
right? Like
both would be great.
You can be your best version of yourselves. And the Leafs, I think, genuinely believe this year, but I think they've genuinely believed in years past, Hayes, that if we play our best, we're good enough to win. Now, they probably were right, but they didn't play their best. That was the problem. And they probably believe that again. If we play our best, we don't care who we play. But I'm not going to act like quality of competition isn't a thing. Like, when the Rangers played the Caps last year in the first round, we all said that is going to be the fastest, easiest first-round series ever. Not ever, but you know what I mean? Like, they were going to roll through because they were just that much better. Like, I'm sorry, if you play Columbus, it's going to be more likely that you win than you play Florida. So
yes, of course.
I think it all... I don't think the Leafs players will be talking about this. I don't think the organization will. I think they will put it on themselves, but whoever is running, take a look at the odds when they come out, take a look at whatever probabilities. I like when I'm a bigger favorite. I don't care who it's against. That's the game I want. I don't want the tougher competition. I want the easy competition because I'm trying to survive and advance, and that's all I care about.
Well, that's what Winnipeg's getting, right? Winnipeg's getting that second wild card team, Vancouver, Calgary, Utah, St. Louis, and that's going to be the David versus Goliath series. That's how it's going to be billed, that Winnipeg better beat this team in 5 games at most. Like, maybe you hand them 1 win. Maybe. Anything less than that would be, somewhat surprising based on the way the two teams are built and the seasons that they both had.
But wouldn't you want to be Winnipeg? Like, wouldn't you want to be on the team that's like, we're supposed to win in 5 because we probably will. Maybe it goes to 6, but we're 85% to win the series. Yeah, for sure. And I think that's why, Vegas, if they get... it feels to me like Minnesota might fall to 4th right now with all the injuries and Kaprizov and everything else. So it could end up being Dallas, Colorado 2-3, which would be not a good matchup for both those teams because those are 2 really good teams, someone going home if Minnesota drops. But, yeah, I mean, this is the beauty. We're 2 months out. We're 1 week away from the trade deadline. And if you're to ask me, I think we got that email today, right? Who are your Cup favorites today? I got to sit down and really think about it. Like, I want to put Dallas in there. I guess I want to put Winnipeg in there. I don't know where I have Washington. Feels like I have to have them, but I don't know. Florida. Like, there's a lot of teams, and the ones at the front haven't really separated themselves much from the team that you might have 8th or 9th. And that is great opportunity, but also nothing guaranteed if you're one of the top teams.
Well, it does feel like it could be one of those years where a team that pushes through, that might be even new to the dance, like, Washington's got a lot of new players. I know Ovi's still there, John Carlson's still there, but, those are some guys that are kind of fresh into this situation, and they've been really good in the East. And for Winnipeg, like, we know the deal. 2 years in a row, you win the first game of your series, you get dusted the rest of the way. Do you kind of see this being a year where, someone that hasn't necessarily been getting knocked off year after year just kind of breaks through?
Well, you say Winnipeg or Toronto, like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Dallas has gone deep, so I can't really say them. Vegas, Edmonton,
that's what
deep.
I guess that's what I'm saying. Like, Dallas goes deep every year. Carolina goes deep every year. And then is it just someone that hasn't been doing that just flies right through?
Could the LA Kings be sneaky tough in the first round? They might be. I know they've gotten sort of blown out by Edmonton in the years past, but given their home record right now, they are by percentage points ahead of the Oilers. If they get to play at home in that series, LA might be another team like that, Frankie. Yeah, and I think generally teams around the NHL now, nobody really fears or is intimidated by other good teams. Yeah, I know Florida plays a brash, physical brand of hockey. I get it. But I don't think anyone sort of fears anyone. So even if you're new to the situation, I don't think teams will be overwhelmed or intimidated. So yeah, it's wide open, which is, again, brings us back to the starting point, why the Leafs and several other teams like, well, might as well go for it now because they have a legitimate. They're one of the 8 or 9 teams that have a legit chance to win the Stanley Cup. And I say that seriously, even though they haven't got out of the first round more than once, they have about as good a chance as the top 9 teams. So if you like those odds, you do what you can to get the best out of them.
Johnny, tell me what you would do at the deadline. Tell me the 2 or 3 guys you would go get, even if it's fantasy hockey. Let's get into this and tell me your thoughts.
Fantasy hockey. Well, I mean,
with a realistic approach,
yeah.
Not stupid, but like, what if you're on the clock? What would you do?
So I think one of the considerations in this conversation is what are you doing with John Tavares next year? And, if he's not for sure coming back or, then maybe Braden Shen does make more sense because he has term and you're basically swapping Tavares for him. But if you're going to bring Tavares back at a $5 million hit to be your second or third line center, then maybe right now it makes more sense to go get, a Scott Lawton, who's, a decent player that could play that third line center role, save your money, go get Sam Bennett in the summer, something like that. But if it's me, obviously they need a centerman. So I like Scott Lawton for the price. I don't mind Brock Nelson if he's available for the price because you guys have heard me bang on this drum for how many years, though? They need toughness, yes. They need grease and grit, yes. They need goals. When it matters, they need goals. And so I want guys who can score more. So maybe Brock Nelson does more of that than Lawton or Shen can in that moment. And then I would actually go and try to get Luke Shen as a right shot second pair guy. Probably won't cost nearly as much if he's willing to come.
Who knows if those boys down in Nashville even want to leave? Like, they signed there for a reason, Johnny. Like, maybe Luke Shen's got the bird up.
Protection, though. I don't think he has Luke's trade protection. I know Braden does, but I don't think Luke does. So, maybe Barry Trotz out doing him a solid might ask him, but I'm just checking right now. I don't know if Luke Shen, nothing. He only has one more year, 275, which is like the equivalent of league minimum at this point. So, on a one-off, a guy who works with Morgan Riley, I would maybe take a flyer on him. Mm-hmm. Something like that. That is reasonable and not sort of every first round or every prospect. You're not spending everything to go get something bigger.
Yeah, and you're talking third line, maybe fourth or fifth defenseman. It's propping up what is already here, and I think that's realistic. And you do have to keep some prospects. You got to keep some picks. There is a future beyond this year. You can't get crazy. With Mike Johnson, our TSN hockey analyst. So we were talking about the Oilers. They've lost 5 in a row. And Connor McDavid in particular is in one, unlike we've ever seen in his career.
Yeah.
It's a really, really weird kind of visual to watch him play hockey right now. Dating back to probably the suspension, when he got suspended, and ever since he's come back, he's not scoring, he's not touching the puck a lot, they're losing a lot of games. I asked the question, and I'm curious how you would respond to this. If I gave you the total 1.5 Hart trophies the rest of his career, would you take the over or the under?
Take the over.
You're going over.
I take the over.
All right,
yeah.
You're going over.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
What's the reason behind that, Johnny?
Go ahead, Johnny. Go ahead, please.
Well, I mean,
reveal your reasoning.
He's having as we all sort of acknowledge, even as he acknowledges, a very down year by his standards, and he's 4th in league scoring. He's going to play on a good team, whether he stays in Edmonton or goes somewhere else. He's got the kind of body of work that will age nicely. So, yeah, he's going to be battling with McKinnon and Draisaitl and Kucherov and him. Like, those are the 4 players that will be battling for it. They're battling for it this year amongst the forwards, and they will be for the next foreseeable future. And he is younger than Draisaitl, think he's younger than Kucherov. Think he's younger than McKinnon.
Yeah.
So, the youngest of those four guys, and until, Jack Eichel's one of those guys, Jack Hughes is one of those guys, they're not Connor McDavid. Not right now. So I'd say, yeah. Although it's wild. The very idea that we're going to sit here and we're doing our shows and the question is like, what's wrong with McDavid? I don't even remember ever having this kind of conversation.
Never, man.
Never. Like, what's he not doing? I'm like, what do you mean? All he does is dominate every time he plays.
Right.
But he's talking about he's not touching the puck enough. He hasn't been on the ice for a 5-on-5 goal for 6 or 7 games. He's been outscored 0-11. I think he was on there for 1 5-on-5 Draisaitl's goal last game, but got a 6-on-5 point late. It's a strange look. I'm assuming he's healthy. He looked healthy in the Four Nations. It's just not happening for him. But I also wonder, I don't want to go too far down this road though, guys, but I wonder if this struggling blip for the Oilers highlights a bigger issue in that how good is that team really? Are they a Stanley Cup contender because they have 2 of the 4 best players in the league?
That team I watched last night, you'd have to wonder if they are or not, Johnny. They're just,
right.
I don't know. There's some holes there.
Are those guys masking all the holes on the defense? Like they're 4, 5, 6 or what? Stetcher and Emberson and it's not Klingberg, Kulak. Those are bottom 4. Mm-hmm. Right?
Well, here's one for you, Johnny. What about the goalie? Do you ever look at the goalie and say, I just don't know if I can trust it, or are you like, that guy got us to the finals, he can just get it back on track?
I think he's like every goalie in the league that is from the 10th best guy to the 25th best guy. There are moments where they are more than good enough to win a Stanley Cup, and there are moments you're like, I don't like the way this guy moves on the ice. And Stu Skinner looks like that sometimes. And they would like his history of doing it in years past. But he's also been the beneficiary of a really good sort of possession chance ratio team. Because of Draisaitl, because of McDavid. When they were on the ice, the chances, the shots, the expected goals, the actual goals, everything was monumentally tilted in Edmonton's favor, which, of course, helps your goaltender. So, no, I don't trust him as much as I trust other guys, but I don't know what you can do. With all the issues that they have there, what are you going to do? You can't go get, I'm hearing Jordan Binnington, you're going to go get a $5-6 million goaltender and trade for him. It just doesn't make sense. That's like saying Jordan Binnington should come to Toronto. It makes no sense because you already have guys that are capable, even if they're not quite as good. So, it's a weird time for Edmonton. Knobloch being pretty frank about them being fragile. Skinner, Arvidsson, all this stuff is it? Guys, are you watching golf right now?
No.
Charley Hoffman. I'm sorry. I'm going to interrupt your hockey coverage. He's on 17, 170-yard par 3. He just hosel rocketed one 60 degrees right. On the wrong side of the lake into a backyard. A shot like you've never seen.
I love it. Charley
Oh,
Hoffman.
my
We got to
word.
get that, Joe, from the
We got to find it.
I'm going to predict before
Green?
you comment. No, he's got a green hat on. He's got gray, shiny dress pants, white, tight arm sleeves, and just a saggy white shirt.
Everything but the hat. Oh, he's going with the white hat today, but everything else is exactly right.
Does he have the Oakley glasses on? Where are the
Tight
Oakleys?
compression undershirt. I've never seen a shot like this.
Wow.
He hit a house that is not in play, and he's a pro. Anyways, I digress.
I love it.
Anyway, the Oilers are just a strange team. And I do kind of put that in the bigger picture of McDavid can sign an extension this summer. He can choose to extend. And he and his camp will be evaluating not just life in Edmonton, but the future of the franchise. How good is that team for him going forward?
Okay.
What about a mini Jerry on an automatic McDavid signing July 1st to get some blood off our hands, Johnny? Mini Jerry.
Mini Jerry on July 1st extension?
Automatic.
I am going 7%. Not happening.
Yeah. Draisaitl
That's
didn't sign
dropping the
July
hammer.
1st, right? It took him a while. July 1's early in the process.
Just for the viewers and
I'm gonna
listeners,
give
that
you,
was Mike
I'm
Johnson
give you a
speaking.
15% chance that he even signs in the month of July.
Okay. I like it. What about here? Let's just keep this going, man. This mini Jerry. It's just there's a lot of meat on the bone.
Yeah, we gotta continue this segment for an hour.
Day one of camp next year. What's your mini Jerry? Day one of camp next year. McDavid signed an extension there.
40%.
That's in the minority. That's in the
And
minority.
if he signs it, I'm going to double down that it won't be an 8-year deal.
Well,
I've run the numbers.
Yeah.
He can't sign an 8-year deal.
Why do you
There's
say
just not
that?
enough money. I don't want to get too far down to the numbers, but basically his cap hit is going to be like 16% of the cap, right? So if he just goes based on the cap of his first year, it would be $104 million. That's $17 million. Would be just the bare minimum to start with.
Mm-hmm.
The max he can go for, Hayes, is 19-1, because the max you can sign for is the cap of the year that you signed the deal in, which is 95.5, which is this year's. So a long-term deal would have to pay him more than 19-1, and he can't sign for more than 19-1 until next year. So that's why he can't sign a long-term contract this summer, essentially.
Right. He'll probably do what Matthews is doing, and I think they have
It would
the same
make way more
representative.
sense. 3 years, $50 million, come back to it, 8 years, $140.
The reality is McDavid doesn't need to
Or
sign an
whatever.
8-year deal because there's never going to be money off the table for him. If he calls any
That's
team
right.
and says, I'm Connor McDavid and I want $20 million or whatever it is, they're like, sure, no problem. What do you want, 4 or 5 years?
But
Like,
there's got to
it's
be
just-
a gamble at some. Like McDavid is.
There's
McDavid's
no gamble
probably,
for McDavid.
There probably isn't. There probably isn't. Although I'm on the under for the Hart trophies, so I would say at some point there
Terrible
would be.
take. Worst take on this show.
History would suggest I'll be right on this. History would tell me I'll be right on this. But like Matthews, we were talking about it, last week. I think it was, or maybe it was an off the air chat. You get up there in age, you start getting some injuries and stuff. Like all of a sudden, you can look back on it and say, maybe I should have signed for 8. Like maybe I should have taken the 8 and gotten every penny I could have gotten.
No, not a chance.
Okay.
Not even close to being correct. Like, not even close to being right.
So you're telling me he scores at a 38 goal rate between now and when his deal is up. He's going to get 17% of the cap on an 8-year deal after that?
Well, he doesn't get 17% of the cap.
Whatever it is,
Matthews.
15% or whatever.
He gets 15. Yes, and when his deal's up in 4 years and the cap's $120 million, he will get the 13% he gets now. Yeah, and he'll make more money.
Guaranteed.
He'll make more dollars, smaller percentage, because the cap explosion changes the entire calculus.
All right.
So your base knowledge is correct. Like, he might get worse, and he might deserve less of the cap. But less of a cap, even a 10% player, it's going to be $125 million, or $12.5 million in 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
So he's going to get $15 million, even if his production goes down.
Okay.
So no.
All right.
He's done. Nobody has gamed out the salary cap situation better than Austin Matthews. He's got it dialed in.
He's the only one that's really doing it, like for the most part.
But he's willing to. He's willing to go short, take the hits in the market, roll the dice and bet on himself, forego the security. But he doesn't. But he understands he's good enough that it's very unlikely, unless it's a catastrophic injury, that he doesn't come out further ahead, both in career flexibility and actual dollars earned.
All right. We'll see what comes of it, Johnny. We'll see what comes of it.
Bookmark this show. We'll see.
Bookmark this show. Bookmark this show. All right, Johnny, we'll leave it there. Thank you for doing this.
All right, fellas. Have a good weekend.
There's Mike Johnson. Everyone wins awards. Everyone gets money. Everything works out perfectly.
Dude, let me ask you this.
Joining us on the Maple Toyota Hotline.
If you looked at the stats page right now on NHL.com, we can all agree that like McKinnon, Draisaitl, Kucherov, McDavid, there's your big four. Those guys will win, a combined however many hearts. Like those guys are winning hearts, right?
Okay. Yep.
Outside of that, Pasternak, Connor, Marner, Eichel, Rantanen, and Hughes. That finishes the top 10. Any of those guys winning a heart?
I mean, it seems unlikely, but again, I would have said the same thing about Taylor Hall when he won. Corey
There's
Perry
a Taylor
when he won
Hall around the corner that just
Okay, and
has
then
a
and
miracle
then after,
season and gets a team.
Fair enough. And then after that, it's Keller, Bratt, Hagel, Natchez, Scheifele, Makar. There's your D-man that probably will win
which
one
makes
at some point.
It's tough to win if you're a defenseman. Like Chris Pronger won 25 years ago. But I hear what I get it. I'm not. I understand.
Hey, a goalie's going to win it this year.
What's that?
A goalie's going to win the Hart this year.
Hellebuck might. I feel like Draisaitl's in the lead, but Hellebuck could win it. Like by all accounts, Hellebuck could win it. I'm just saying. Again, my argument is more based on the history of the award. And I get what you're saying. Like, well, the other guys are older too, and McKinnon's old. Yes, they are absolutely. I'm not saying they're going to win every single year, but. Gretzky was 28. Sid was 26. Ovi was 27. I'm going to go to a different league. Let me give you another one. You guys can laugh all you want.
No, we're just
LeBron James.
You're really hammering.
How old do you think LeBron was the last time he won an MVP?
Let me guess. 28.
28 years old.
I knew it.
28 years old.
I knew it.
So you're telling me McDavid's different than LeBron James? I mean, come on, guys. Like, you don't win 15 Hart trophies just because you're the best player. Like, it's just.
But it is kind of crazy how.
And
I'm talking years ago. You would talk about a guy being in his prime, basically from 24 to 27, and then what the hell happens the year after your last year of?
It is a weird kind of line. I get it.
It's like, okay, you better be good with that because that's all gone now. So enjoy it.
And to be clear, I think he'll win another one.
Yeah. But
the total was 1.5.
Yeah.
I think he'll win another one.
pro sports these days, it's like. It is from 13 years old, it is grind it and work every single day of your life and just crush your legs and your body and your muscles. And it just, by the time you're 28, man, the wheels are coming off. Like if you're a blue chip guy who's skating, doing McDavid drills your whole life, and then all of a sudden you go to the OHL, and then you've got these Hlinka Gretzky tournaments, World Junior tournaments, development camps.
In the summer, July 1st, they bring you in. They run you into the ground for a week.
Yeah, and then you've got that, and then you've got rookie camp, and then you've got NHL World Championships. I think by the time guys are 28, 29, 31, the wheels come off. Yeah. Like the elite players, they obviously have more longevity, but other guys, like elite players, like
it's tough to do, man.
Yeah,
it's tough
man.
To
it's
do.
like
and
30 years old. It's like, check, please. Like I can't move out there.
And to be clear, it's not that you're not the consensus best player anymore collectively. It's that for any individual season, you're going against the field every year. Yeah, and that's my argument that, again, LeBron has been the best player the last decade. He hasn't won an MVP in 12 years, man.
Yeah.
Like LeBron. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not easy to do, man.
It's a fair point.
Dude, when I was playing in the league, guys were cashing in on free agent deals at 35.
Right.
In Carolina, we signed Ronnie Francis at 35.
It's crazy. All right, we gotta come back and play the LeBron audio from last night about being
the Charley Hoffman skank ball
and
too.
Charley Hoffman coming up. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4. Mail-in Friday brought to you by Boston Pizza, Canada's favorite sports bar. Enjoy $15 lunch at BP where you get an entree, a side, and a drink. And you'll get it all in 20 minutes or less. So a fast lunch doesn't have to be fast food. See you for a $15 fast lunch at your local Boston Pizza. All right, you guys want to hear and see Charley Hoffman, who is down at the, the Cognizant?
Cognizant, man. Yeah. Hoffman's one of our favorites. He's a veteran, and he means well.
Yes, he does. He'll leave a voicemail looking for action, right? He was famously the one calling... Wasn't it Phil?
Was Phil.
Or Phil was calling him, wasn't it?
Like,
or
hey,
was saying,
Hoffman's got his buddy in town, wants to...
Yeah, he had a game with Charley Hoffman for big money, allegedly.
Yeah.
All right, here's Charley Hoffman, par 3, 17th, down at PGA National.
Oh, my God, he shanked it.
Whoa. Wow, you almost never see that on the PGA Tour.
Sandsy.
There's Steve Sands, our boy. That is on the other side of the water.
Dude, the only question I have is, did he go play that?
I think you'd have to go play it if it's not out of bounds.
Yeah.
Like it, it's one of those things where the tour may not even have a distinction because it's so out of bounds.
Yeah, and there might not be any way to get there. That course is just like
right. It's got to be OB. I would guess he's got a re-tee. Yeah, he re-teed because that's not even a drop, man. Like that's just straight out of bounds.
Yeah,
like that
is just put another seed down and see what happens.
Yeah,
that hole. Good luck, because like it's one thing hitting the shank, that's fine, but hitting the next one on that hole, that is outrageous.
Dude, and you know what? You see that happen on the PGA Tour, and it doesn't happen very often, but it kind of puts it into perspective. The guy that does that playing 8 a.m. on a Saturday morning, you probably don't need to yell and scream and smash your club when you shank one, man. Guys on the PGA Tour do it.
It does
You'll
happen.
Be okay.
It does kind of put things into perspective.
So wired about that kind of stuff. Like, just go hit your ball.
Well, and furthermore, on top of that, if there is no white stake or anything, there are lunatics that would go and try to play it, right? Like, I'm going to go find it. I'm going to play it. I'm going to try to get up and down. I think I can stay par. And you're
there's nothing worse than a guy that's 35 over for the day that wants to grind and go through the just mission impossible to find a seed or it's like plop one down, man, and hit it. Don't even look in those woods.
It's over.
You're not allowed in the woods.
All right. It is time now for you to tell us where Al's brother has been hiding all week. Call us right now at 416-870-1050. 416-870-1050. The first caller through with the correct location wins a pair of tickets to see the Maple Leafs play the Panthers on March 13th. That's a big one. That is a big one. Another chance to find Al's brother and win Leaf tickets starts next week right here on OverDrive, brought to you by McAlpine Ford in Aurora. Our family, the Ford family, and you. And, of course, the answer this week has been Kensington Market. Al's brother's been down at Kensington, just kind of cruising around.
I thought it was Graffiti Alley.
No, he was there earlier in the year.
He kind of. Okay.
I thought it was Kensington earlier in the week, the way he was kind of talking it up. And it's a cool part of town, Kensington Market. So that's where Al's brother's been, and he's had Leaf tickets, and I'm sure someone's called in and already announced that and won the tickets. So congrats to whoever that is. Ryan Callahan coming up, Dear Hazy B coming up, and we'll play LeBron's audio on being the face of the league and whether or not it's worth it. That and more still to come. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app. All right, Ryan Callahan, Dear Hazy B still to come. We'll get into the LeBron conversation from last night. We'll do that at 6 o'clock. Crazy season in the NFL too, in terms of rumors and stuff. The Matt Stafford, early in the week he was going to the Raiders or going to the Giants, and now he's reworking his deal out with the Rams.
What about the Giants' intentions now?
Now the Giants have their eyes set on Aaron Rodgers.
I thought that was a fake tweet today.
Dude, I thought that was a fake tweet. The GM cannot stop himself, man. He wants to just float down a river in burning garbage.
He does, but here's where it starts at the top, man. It's that owner in New York is not quite as loud as Jerry Jones, but I think he's equally as incompetent because the Mara family owns them. They've owned it forever. And he came out at the end of last year saying, I expect to win. We better win or we're getting rid of people. It's like, you stink, dude. Your team stinks. You don't have the pieces.
I'm going to the Dave Naylor line. It's classic and it's so appropriate. Put an owner in a meeting room, a video room with 6 beers, you've got a dangerous situation.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do, man.
The guy thinks he knows what. Like, you be rich all you want. Like you have the right to own the team, but as far as the actual team and the players, you don't know what the hell you're talking about.
Well,
yeah. I don't know how you go from.
I'll take Rodgers. It sounds like there might be, and I think Rodgers. That's exactly what he'd want. Keep me in New York. Let me stuff it to the Jets. Let me go across town and try to drag that team somewhere. I think it would actually be very compelling entertainment, wouldn't it, Frankie? Like to see him play for both teams in New York over the span of 3 years.
Yeah, but what if he causes a mess for both New York teams? That's the
what
way
about the other? What about the other
side?
Good. What if he goes to the Giants and he's a rock star, dude?
I can't see that being the case. But if you're the Giants and you're sitting there in the boardroom and you go, we had Danny Dimes, didn't work. We had to use Tommy Cutlets, and now we're going to go Aaron Rodgers. This is the surefire fix. In no world is that the surefire fix for you.
No, it's
not. You don't think there's any chance that Aaron Rodgers puts a Giants helmet on and he turns into just a rock star?
18%. 18%.
Hazy, Mini
Yeah.
Jerry on Rodgers being a rock star with a
Who's he
Giants
throwing
helmet.
to?
He's got Malik Neighbors, and I don't know. I mean, who's protecting him, too? That's a problem.
Right.
With the Jets, no protection. The Giants haven't had an offensive line seemingly since, the Super Bowl years.
You know what I love? I love the reports wherever he goes, he wants to take Devontae Adams with him. Does Devontae Adams ever get to a point where he's like, I don't want to go with that guy?
Not yet.
You know what I
man.
mean?
I know. You'd think so, but, Vegas wasn't any better. All he's known is Aaron Rodgers in his prime. Like Adams popped, was at his best when he was in Green Bay with Aaron. The thing is, if you're Devontae Adams, you're like, who's playing who's the Jets quarterback? Like, it's just a sign of desperation that the Giants would poke around. Doesn't mean it's going to happen, but they have no other option. They cut Danny Dimes. They have nobody to play.
Yeah.
It's not a draft friendly, it's not a great quarterback draft. There's a couple core QBs that are going to go, and maybe they take Shedeur Sanders. Maybe he's on the board and they take him. I don't know if he can step in and play right away.
Dude, I'd rather get Kirk Cousins out of Atlanta and see if that guy can do something. I know it was a mess and he got benched eventually, but he had a good start to the season, and at least you're not getting the sideshow with him. Like,
That's
you
the
get Rodgers and everything that comes with it. Why not just have a squeaky clean guy that's kind of quiet go do his business?
I would suggest that's a better option for a team that's not that good. That a team that kind of needs to band together. Rodgers isn't a band together guy. He's not. He's going to do his own thing. He's going to continue to do his own thing.
Frankie,
He's
just
gonna
an
want his own
FYI,
people.
this guy thought Danny Dimes deserved every cent, so that's where his head's at.
I don't think that's an accurate statement at all.
Get
I
the
don't
tape
recall
of that.
ever saying
inaccurate.
that.
Seems inaccurate.
I'm pretty sure that's an inaccurate comment. Final hour coming up. Ryan Callahan will join us. Dear Hazy being our best bets. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app.